cave breathes. You can almost hear it. A low hum from the dark, like a sleeping animal. The air is thick with iron, smoke, and something older than memory. This was where they led the chosen. This was where stone drank blood. It begins in the shadowed highlands of ancient Mesoamerica, where the mountains cradle secrets older than the pyramids. Here, at dawn, the priest prepared the sacred chamber, a limestone throat in the earth, blackened by centuries of fire and blood. This was the realm of gods who demanded payment, gods of rain, fertility, and death. Their names, carved into stone and whispered in smoke, shaped entire kingdoms. And to displease them meant drought, famine, and war. The cave was their altar. The victims did not walk willingly. They were taken from conquered lands, prisoners of war, or chosen by divination, sometimes even beloved children of nobles, offered in desperate bargains for the favor of heaven. None would see the sun again. The air inside the cave was heavy with torch smoke. Shadows leapt on the damp walls like ghosts dancing in silence. Beneath their feet, centuries of sacrifice had turned the floor black. A sheen of dried blood fused into stone. Drums outside grew slower as the procession entered. The cave echoed with the chant of a single word repeated endlessly, a name no longer remembered. The priest's body was painted red, his eyes wide with something between madness and devotion. The victim was stripped bare, trembling, skin glistening in torchlight. Cold water was poured over them, purifying, they said, but it only made their teeth chatter louder. The echo of their breath merged with the drip of water from the ceiling. At the altar's center lay a flat slab of limestone polished smooth by centuries of death. Around it were skulls, real and carved, stacked like offerings. The priest lifted his obsidian blade, its edge sharp enough to split hair, its surface glinting wetly. The moment stretched thin. The drum stopped. In that stillness, even the cave seemed to hold its breath. Then came the sound, a sharp, wet crack. The blade entered flesh, slow, deliberate. Blood sprayed against the wall in a crimson arc. They said the gods needed to taste fear to awaken. So the priest made sure there was fear. He carved the body open with precision, reaching into the steaming cavity to raise the heart high into the flickering light, still beating weakly in his fist. The crowd outside roared, a mixture of awe and horror. The priest pressed the heart to the stone, smearing its blood across carvings of serpents and suns. The walls seemed to shimmer, as though the stone itself was alive and hungering. When the body fell limp, it was dragged aside. The next was brought in. There were always more. Each scream was swallowed by the cave, echoing into darkness that never gave sound back. Even the gods, perhaps, had grown tired of the noise. Over the centuries, the sacrifices grew more elaborate. Victims were adorned with feathers and gold, paraded through cities as living offerings. The ritual became theater, a performance of devotion, fear, and power that held empires together. Priests studied the stars, believing the heavens themselves mirrored their rituals. When Venus vanished from the sky, they said it was because the gods hungered. When comets burned the night, they sharpened the knives. The universe demanded balance, but even within this faith, whispers of doubt began to grow. Some said the gods were silent not because they were angry, but because they were gone. Still, the priest continued, terrified that stopping the ritual would bring the end of all things. When the Spanish arrived centuries later, they found the caves desecrated and filled with bones. To them, it was proof of barbarity. To the native survivors, it was proof of tragedy, a faith that had been both their strength and their undoing. Archaeologists who unearthed the caves in the 20th century spoke of what they found with trembling voices. The skeletons were layered like pages in a book. Children, women, warriors, all laid in precise order. As if death itself had been catalogued. Some bones still bore cut marks, evidence of ritual butchery, hearts removed while the victims lived. Others were covered in mineral deposits, suggesting that blood had pooled and hardened on the rock, layer upon layer, until stone became part of flesh. The torches that once lit the walls were long gone, yet the carvings still shone faintly under lamplight. Serpents, suns, jaguars, the same symbols of power and rebirth that once justified rivers of blood. Even now, they seem to shimmer in defiance. And deep inside, where light could no longer reach, the archaeologists discovered something that made them silent. A final chamber, smaller, unmarked. On the floor, a single human skeleton, curled in a fetal position, as if trying to sleep. Was it a priest, buried with his secrets, or a victim, forgotten by his gods? No one knows. But the position, arms folded, knees drawn, looked almost peaceful, as if, after centuries of horror, the cave itself had decided to rest. Some visitors claim the air still vibrates there. Some hear faint drumming from deep within the earth. Others say that when you whisper, the echo comes back just slightly too fast, as if someone or something is whispering with you. And perhaps that's the real horror. Not the blood, not the sacrifice, but the thought that devotion can become hunger. That humans can give everything, even their hearts, to silence, and still think it divine. Every civilization builds its gods in its own image, and when those gods demand suffering, it is not heaven speaking. It is humanity's reflection in the dark. The cave, the blade, the altar, all are mirrors. When you think of it that way, history feels less distant. The rituals may have changed, the gods may have new names, but the idea that death can bring salvation still lingers in the corners of our minds, as stubborn as the scent of old blood. The cave still stands today, hidden among vines and rain, deep in the jungle. Few dare to enter, fewer stay long. The locals call it La Boca del Silencio, the mouth of silence, because even now it seems to breathe. And maybe, on some forgotten night, when thunder rolls across the highlands, the cave will awaken again. The stones will sweat, the shadows will move, and the earth will remember the old bargains. Blood for rain, death for life, faith for fear. So as you close your eyes tonight, imagine the torches fading, the air tightening, the echo of a blade against stone. Would you have stood with the priests or prayed that the gods wouldn't choose you next? Because in the end, the cave is not just a place. It is a question, a heartbeat of history still echoing in the dark. If you thought this was horrifying, wait until you hear about fall asleep under the gallows, ropes in the moonlight,